Today we are writing an introductory paragraph to an essay about education in the United States. So the thesis statement is going to be something like American education should continue as is, or American education needs to be completely overhauled because it's a disaster, something like that. So first we start with our name, teacher name, class name, date, and we center our title. We're not sure what the title is going to be yet because we haven't really fleshed out our essay yet, so we'll call it something about education. Then we'll skip another line, left justify, tab for the first line of the paragraph. This is where we'll put it later, but first we need to Command A or Control A, change to Times New Roman, 12-point font, double spaced, so that we're in MLA format. Then double click in the top margin to create a header. Type our last name, just the last name, space, insert page number, and then change that as well to Times New Roman 12-point font. So our format's what it needs to be. Now, before we get going with this, just at the bottom of the document, I'm going to flesh out my ideas so I can refer to them. I'm not sure what I'm going to write yet. So for our thesis, it's probably easier to argue that U.S. education needs to change. So let's say that U.S. education is great. Let's keep it. So we should support U.S. education as is. The reasons. Why? So scores are bad. That can't really be disputed compared to other industrialized nations. But we did read that article in class last time that said that scores are improving faster than other industrialized nations except for Hong Kong. So that's a good one. Another one, we read the article saying that American teachers work really hard, that they're devoted, and they typically spend long hours. I mean, that makes sense. Here it's 4:30, and here I am at the school preparing this video so that you can learn how to write. 5 o'clock, never mind. Yes. Actually, this is a pretty good simulation of what you'll be doing. We attended professional development today. I'm tired. I haven't eaten in a long time. I'm running on 6 hours of sleep. For another reason, we could talk about sports. A lot of the criticisms that we read were about sports and how we spend too much money, but we could talk about some of the advantages that sports programs do provide. There was that report that said athletes tend to get higher grades. We could talk about some of the collaborative aspects that the sports teams tend to provide for students, community building, teamwork. Okay, so I think that of these three, the strongest argument is that scores are improving faster in the United States. And you want to put your strongest argument, or your strongest arguments first and third, and sandwich your weakest one in the middle. Cicero taught that long ago, and it's still a good idea. So let's start off with sports programs and the good things that they provide, and then finish off with tests. The teachers one seems a bit weaker, but we'll use what data we can for that one from the article. We may need to change that. I'll think about it for a bit. The notion that U.S. high school students perform at lower levels than their peers in other industrialized nations is taken for granted, considered a given. So we're starting off with introduction, with background information for the topic. So just something basically to say, today we're talking about education. Here's what everybody knows about it. And people say that you should start with a hook, and that's true, but a hook is not a question. It's at least not when you get into more academic writing. It's popular in 8th grade to write, is education really working, or something, and then answer the question. And that's okay, but the hook just needs to be sort of an interesting sentence. And if it's too cheesy, sometimes it turns people off rather than pulls them into it. I often don't write a hook until the introductory paragraph's basically done. I'll start with just some background. But this, to me, is interesting. It would draw me in. Okay, we're talking about education. U.S. High school students perform at lower levels than their peers. Everybody knows that. And then expand on that a little bit, still giving background. Even the most positive analyses of American education don't sing praises based on test scores. It's usually other things. And indeed, that's what we're doing as well, because the test scores are lower. That is a fact. We can't dispute that. You know what, at this point, I think I'm going to change this. So the article did talk about that, but our facts are kind of weak. How does teachers spending longer hours equal higher performance? So I think a better second reason is going to be that the article showing how American education provides equal access for all students with disabilities, whether they're citizens or not, all races. Everyone who's here gets to go to school, and that's not always the case in other nations, which can sometimes skew test data, and I think that's a more powerful reason. So let's go with that one. Okay. Their test scores are lower. Even the best say they're good, but not because of test scores. But something about education is still good. Now, I'm tempted to use an ambiguous pronoun here, an it or this, but I want to be specific. So we saw in that report that South Korea and Finland were some of the specific countries that were getting higher test scores. So let's use that as an example to say, even though some countries are doing better than us, though, still, this is our third sentence in which we're repeating, yeah, our test scores are low, but, yeah, our test scores are low, but, yes, it's true, our test scores are low. Still, there are benefits that make it worth saving. Let's see. By the way, it's not a good idea to start a sentence with a coordinating conjunction like but. However, if you have a dependent clause after the coordinating conjunction, but while South Korea and Finland may blah blah blah, comma, dependent clause, comma, and then an IC, an independent clause, American public schools are, whatever, then it's actually a good transition. It's only weak when the coordinating conjunction is attaching uh, information only to your previous sentence. But in this case, it transitions reasonably well. But while South Korea and Finland may produce better numbers, American public schools are ample means enough, amply suited to help Americans thrive, as a better word for do well, to succeed, and supporting the rapidly improving state of affairs in the U.S. Sounds a bit too general, so I'll say education system, not just the affairs of the U.S. Makes it sound like it's talking about the entire government. Thinking. Let's redo this. Yeah, let's just toss it. That sounds weird. Okay, we'll end the sentence there. Make it more concise. Break up our ideas a bit. Okay, I think we're just going to jump into the thesis statement here and just say what we should do is continue to support American education as is. So, to say that more academically, the best and most realistic path to a successful future. So at some point in this essay, I'm going to acknowledge that, yeah, there are better ways to go about it, but it takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and what's working is working, so let's continue with it. The best and most realistic path to a successful future for American school, American students is to continue supporting current trends of collaboration. That's one thing that the article said was positive in the United States, that we have a good culture, or we're developing a better culture of collaboration for teachers and students. And the rapid improvement already in progress. It's a little redundant, but I will leave it for now. Okay, now we'll list our 3 reasons. I think as a list of 3 dependent clauses, so it'll be DC, and DC, IC. Because American schools provide a wide range of meaningful because American schools provide a wide range of meaningful extracurricular experiences. That's going to be sports, but in that paragraph we'll also mention a lot of the other opportunities that are available, drama and some other things that are often criticized for being expensive, but are valuable experiences for life. Okay, because they do that, because they make success possible for students. How to word this? This is what you should do, class. Word it, reword it, word it again. Don't be afraid to delete entire sentences, entire paragraphs. You can always Control Z. Let's try this. Because they make a complete set. So we have a wide range, a complete set of educational and experiential opportunities available to an all-inclusive strata of young people. You can think of the stratosphere, like the levels of the sky. Strata is a word that's very useful for argument essays because you're often talking about different levels of society. Strata is a cool word to express that. And because even test scores are steadily gaining on international competitors. So because of all these things, these three things on a list, A, comma, B, comma, and C, comma, so at this point, we're tempted to say we should continue to foster growth, but instead of saying we, we'll say policymakers. It's still generic, but a little bit less so. To think, okay, not we. Who's we? Well, the people who make laws, the people who make decisions, the people who call the shots for education. Maybe we'll get even more specific later. But for now, policymakers should continue to foster public education in, I want to say, its current state, but we've made a rule for today not to use ambiguous pronouns like it, so I'm going to try and think of a better way to say it. And I can't right now. This is grammatically correct. Maybe we'll just leave it for a minute. Think about it and come back. Okay, so you'll notice that I didn't make a reasonable title before. It's because I didn't know what I was going to write about, but now I kind of do. And for a title, sometimes it's good to make a play on words. I mean, you've got to be careful. If it's too punny, it can get cheesy real quick. And this is probably dumb too, but we'll use it for now. So the idea of saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, in the old days, the water in the tub was so dirty. It's so dirty that you'd forget that the baby was in it and throw it all out. That there are lots of things that need improving in American education, but overall it's good and we shouldn't toss it out. And here I'm going one step further and saying, hey, the water's not even that dirty. We got a good thing going here. So why would we change something that's not so broken? Okay, going through this, I'm going to change commonplace to ubiquitous. It's kind of a more fancy academic word to mean it's everywhere. Maybe a bit much, but the sentence seems off a bit. The notion that U.S. high school students perform at lower levels in math and science. Maybe that's a bit more specific, because in the second sentence I say they don't sing praises based on test scores, but I just said perform at lower levels. I think I need to actually mention test scores before so that it's clear that we're repeating this. Yes, our test scores are bad, but we've already got, it's getting to be kind of a long sentence as is, so rather than say math and science, I'm going to use the acronym STEM. We saw that quite a bit in the articles we read, STEM. science, technology, engineering, and math, which are typically the subjects that America is criticized for performing lower in. Let's rearrange this. There's too much information in between the notion and ubiquitous. Let's put it at the beginning. See how this sounds. The notion is ubiquitous, that maybe we should just break it up into one little sentence and a larger one. It's turning into a hook after all. An 8th grade style hook, or short, pithy sentence to say, come on in, take a look. Will this work? Maybe it's better after this background information. High school students form at lower STEM levels than their peers in other industrialized nations. This secret is not very well kept. So I'm ditching the word ubiquitous. I have enough academic language in here that maybe I can have, let's put this at the beginning after all. That maybe if I have some straightforward, not quite academic language up front, maybe that will invite my reader in on a human level, and then we'll start saying more academic phrases, industrialized nations, positive analyses, so that we have some sentence variety, short, long, witty, academic. Okay, let's read through this. In the most positive analyses of American education don't sing praises based on test scores. But while South Korea and Finland may produce better numbers, American schools are amply suited. The best and most realistic path to a successful future for American schools and American students, is to continue supporting current trends of collaboration and the rapid improvement already in progress. Because American schools provide a wide range of meaningful extracurricular experiences, because they make a complete set of educational and experiential opportunities available to all, an all-inclusive strata. That sounds weird. To young people across a diverse strata, maybe? Of races, creeds, disability, no. Socioeconomic, maybe just in one word, because I don't want to, this is already a list, I don't want to list within a list, it'll get confusing. No, because it's not just, let's stick this at the back again. Experiential opportunities available to diverse strata of young people, and because even test scores are steadily gaining on international competitors. Policymakers should continue to foster public education. Foster public education. We left this before, but it sounds a bit incomplete. Let's see, we haven't said growth yet. Okay, we said improvement here. I think growth would be better here, and then improvement would be better here. We can't say the same word twice. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay. So, here's our thesis statement. The best and most realistic path to a successful future for American schools and American students is to continue supporting current trends of collaboration and the rapid growth already in progress. Okay. So that's the main idea that's going to unify this essay. Every paragraph in the essay will come back to this idea that we should continue to support American education as is, because it's doing well, it's improving. So here's our thesis statement. That it is to continue supporting, the best path is to continue supporting it. And then our three reasons are: one, because American schools provide a wide range of meaningful extracurricular experiences, because they make a complete set of educational and experiential opportunities available to diverse strata of young people, and because even test scores are steadily gaining on international competitors. And we have the thesis statement repeated even again in simpler terms here at the end. Policymakers should continue to foster improvement in public education, just in case you weren't sure what we were doing. Okay, and that will conclude the introduction. It's not perfect, but nothing ever is, and of course we'll come back to this several times before the essay is done.